No, um, a bunch of us were using templates for our slides and it says confidential in like the left-hand corner, but they're not confidential. So feel free to tell everyone how great Sentry is. Okay, cool. So I'm just gonna assume you all can see my slide deck here. Tell me if that's not true. All right, here we go. All right, so hello again. My name is Mimi, and I'm the technical writer here at Sentry. So I just wanted to get started with a little bit more about me. These are my cats. That's Maple and Pancake a couple of weekends ago when it was super, super hot in the San Francisco Bay Area. And that's my current progress on a paint by numbers, or as I'd like to call it, how to chill out and stay inside, hashtag 2020. So it's been a very windy path getting to my role here at Sentry. I was working as a creative writer for a while until I realized that my very beautiful dream of one day owning a house in the Bay Area was quite possibly not going to be achieved by creative writing. So I went to a coding boot camp and graduated. Then I became a software engineering intern, and now I'm a technical writer, a role that fuses two of my skill sets, writing and software engineering. So I work on docs, and let's dive into the creation of docs and how it can foster inclusivity with your teams. All right, so 3 of our topics today: collaboration, inclusivity, and why words and people matter. Collaboration. Cool, so we're gonna go through these pretty quickly. I never regret setting a flexible agenda, whether it be for my goals, for a project, or even the topic covered during a meeting. And I always share this agenda to provide visibility to other teammates and collaborators. It helps facilitate, oh, I'm gonna wait for the garbage truck to drive by. So as I was saying, these agendas help facilitate meetings, right? But also, once you all have a plan together, it's easier to communicate that plan to the whole company because you have buy-in from your stakeholders. And we all should remember that communication is hard. There is always room to misunderstand or forget details. So make sure to track your tasks in a calendar or something like Asana, which is what we use at Sentry. But most importantly, follow up with your collaborators. Sometimes you need to be assertive, which is personally hard for me because I hate nagging people, but if you really want something done, just follow up very assertively, and if you have time, have a retro. Discuss what worked, what didn't work, then gather that information into templates or guides, and this will help others be more self-sufficient, but also serve as a record of your iterations. What worked for a past project might work for another project in 6 months. Inclusivity. Okay, so through your collaborative process, you're already being inclusive, and you've most likely encouraged others to be inclusive too. And thoughtfulness in your preparation and sharing agendas and plans, this all creates a space for ideas and questions and the feeling of inclusion. Constant communication with your teammates is an exercise in being intentional and effective with our words. Different people, readers, teammates, everyone, thinks in a unique way. And the more intentional you are with your words, the smoother the collaboration. Intentional word choice also leads to accessibility, which we'll cover in a few slides. And again, iteration, like something we hear all the time here in tech, right? But really, iteration should be embraced. Record what works and what didn't work. Write it down and share it with others. Someone with experience sharing their knowledge with some newer folks is a form of inclusion. Words and people. All right, so we're going to talk about why American idioms aren't international, how assumptions are distracting, and how words evolve oftentimes for the better. Okay, so external documentation is international, and that's what I work on, external documentation. Sentry customers read our external documentation to install, configure, and understand our product. That means we avoid idioms or any communication that involves a very deep level of cultural knowledge. So I'm gonna have some examples coming up, and these are things I've encountered in the Sentry docs or docs from other companies as well. Okay, so roll your own. I know many people in tech are familiar with this phrase. It usually goes something like, roll your own SDK. But roll your own originates from cigarette culture, and it alludes to rolling your own cigarette. So even if your reader can contextually understand what roll your own means, it's still more clear and to the point to say make your own. Make your own SDK is clean. And again, like to the point. There's no guessing if you have to physically roll something. Okay, so this phrasing was pointed out to me by a friend. Typically in Western culture, an introductory class is designated with the numbers 101. This indicates it's the first class in a series of classes, right? However, not everyone goes to culturally Western schools. To be more inclusive and accessible, it's more clear to say something like blah, 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 intro class, or even class 1, blah, blah, blah. Okay, hurdles. So hurdles is a word choice I recently noticed in some documentation, and I think the phrase was something like, that's the last hurdle in setting up. Hurdles are these fences that runners jump over during a track event. There's definitely an argument to be made that the word hurdles is international because there are hurdles in the Olympics and the Olympics are international, but you're still relying on a reader to understand the feature of a track race, when really what you want to say is step. Like that's the last step in the installation process. Okay, so assumptions are distracting. Being inclusive means avoiding assumptions. What is easy or simple for you may not be easy or simple for the next person. Also, how does one measure easy? Is it 5 minutes? What are we comparing this to? Is it running in zigzags for 5 minutes, or is it running in a straight line for 10 minutes? You see what I'm kind of getting at? I just avoid the words easy, simple, or normally because they're vague and there's probably a better way to have cleaner communication. Okay, so try your best to consider the newcomer, or what some like to call the beginner. And I try to avoid saying beginner because we are all beginners. I used to laugh when people said, the older I get, the less I know. But I think I kind of get it now because I know that I know a lot, but I also know that I don't know a lot. I also don't know what I don't know, but what I do know is you should know your audience. So being inclusive means trying to understand the needs of your audience. If you're writing documentation for Python developers, there's a really good chance you don't have to explain what pip install means. You could just write pip install and move on. Okay, so words evolve towards inclusion. Sometimes you need to exclude words in order to be more inclusive. So at Sentry, we're constantly trying to evolve the way we communicate. For example, we've removed most instances of the word blacklist from our code base and our documentation. And I know this sounds kind of obvious, but changing variable names takes time and sometimes a lot of effort, and I want to recognize that effort. We are also still working on removing instances of the word whitelist. We still have a master branch, but we're also working on removing the word master from our code base. And I just checked earlier this week, and it looks like all instances of the word grandfathering are no longer in Sentry docs, so hooray! Also, I am super happy to answer any questions later about why these words should be removed from your code base and documentation. Ta-da! That's it. Once again, I'm Mimi. You can tweet at me at Mimi_dumpling. Although the closer we get to the election, the less likely I will be on Twitter. You can also email me at mimi@sentry.io. Thank you, everyone.